Certified financial planner professionals are certified to provide comprehensive financial planning that can address just about any facet of one's financial life, including retirement, estate planning, taxes, education, and more. For more info, go to letsmakeaplan.org to find a CFP professional for you.
Welcome in. Final hour on a Football Friday. Trey Wingo and Mike Golic here with you. We're on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance, and all phone guests appear on the Shell Pennzoil Performance.
Are we going to have a problem for the existence of our new show if it's Golic and Wingo?
No.
I mean, Mike and Mike, it was easy with Green and I because we could each believe our name was first and nobody could tell us differently.
Yeah.
In this one, it's pretty obvious if the show is called Golic and Wingo, whose name is first. Are you? I mean, you can be honest with me. We've known each other a long time. Yeah. You can be honest with me if that's going to be, you know.
On the list of things I care about, that is so far down.
It is. But, So what you're saying is it's on the list.
Okay. If the list went one to infinity.
So what you're saying is.
If the list went from 1 to infinity, it would be infinity plus 1.
So there's part of you.
So you're telling me
that
has
an issue with the name.
I don't care. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. You know why? Because the check remains the same.
Oh,
it just doesn't matter. It
doesn't
matter. It doesn't matter. No, I don't get caught up on these little things that mean nothing.
How about if the show was called, because my son will be on it as well, Golic and Golic Jr. with occasionally Trey?
That's fine.
No.
I'm good. Because everybody knows who listens what the real story
How about Golic and Jr. and T?
It'll be like, no, put the pictures will be up. 2 giant Golic heads and then a mini me.
A mini you.
They're the problem. As long as I'm on the poster.
I want to go as far as where to go to make you have an issue with it.
You got to go a lot longer. Just so you know, you got to go a lot longer. But I'm so glad you're bringing that up.
Well, there you go.
Wonderful.
November 27th.
27th. Maybe. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah, I'll go. And then, then what are you going to do? You'll be fine.
Yeah.
So we're glad you're with us.
Yeah, we are.
And we believe we have a new show coming for you.
We do.
On 11/27.
That's a thought.
It is. It is a thought bubble. We've got lots to get to.
We do.
Charles Barkley again sounding off. We've got the idea of an NFL team in London by 2022.
Right. We had a...
we'll see.
We'll talk about
it.
We had an interesting game last night. I think everybody expects these blah games on Thursday. You had to be pretty happy with 41-39 unless you're a defensive player that has to go into meetings.
Or someone that has to get up at 4 in the morning to get here.
There you go, that too.
Would have been great if it was 41-0 at half.
Yeah,
that would have been better.
Yeah.
I'm just saying would have been better. So we got a lot to get to, including, ladies and gentlemen,
right now on Mike and Mike. Let's go. It's time for the 5-Point Stance.
5-Point Stance brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit us at geico.com or call 1-800-947-AUTO, A-U-T-O. Here we go. 5-Point Stance. Mike, number 1. When Deshaun Watson faces Tom Brady, it'll mark the second matchup of the defending national championship winning QB going up against the defending Super Bowl winning QB. Cam Newton against Aaron Rodgers in 2011.
Since 2001, the quarterback. Did you want me to read the rest?
I thought you were going to chime in.
I would have thought there may. I guess it's kind of a rarity. It obviously is. It only happened once more, or one other time. So I don't know why I would have thought it would have happened more.
Yeah, I don't know why you would have thought you wouldn't have contributed.
Well, I thought you were going to read the rest of it. There's more to read.
I'm a giver, Mike. I'm a sharer. I'm not a hog.
We got to work these things out.
No, it's better if we work them out in front of everybody.
Good point.
It's much better that way, and we continue. On the 5-Point Stance.
Okay. You just read it when you stop, I'll talk.
That's pretty much the way it went the last time.
Well, I thought you were going to read, though. There was 4 other lines in that one.
I'm working with a stone. The Panthers have not allowed a touchdown in each of their first 2 games of the season from the Elias Sports Bureau since the forward pass was allowed in 1933. Mike, you were there. The only teams in NFL history to not allow a touchdown in each of its first 3 games of a season, the 34 Lions, 7 straight, and the 37 Bears, 3 straight. They'll be playing the Saints, the Panthers will be, who are trying to avoid a third straight 0-3 start to the season. They and the Bears are the only teams who have started 0-3 in each of the last 2 seasons. The last team to start 0-3 in 3 straight seasons was the Browns from 28 to 2010.
You know, as we look at that.
Is that better?
Yeah,
was that better for you?
I was waiting for you to stop. You didn't have to read all of that. Holy smokes.
First time I let him in. We have guests in the studio, and they're embarrassed for you.
By the way, it's Hembo's baseball coach from high school.
Is it really?
Yeah.
So this is all your fault, sir. This is all your fault. He's a fine gentleman over there,
right.
but this is all your fault. Ross Hadburn over there.
I want to bring up again, I mean, we're talking about the 0-3 starts, but with the Bears, we weren't expecting a lot out of, right? With the Saints, it's always about that defense because you know the offense can get yards and score points. That's why I brought up the two teams that are 0-2, but that we thought would do more, like Cincinnati and the Giants. Like, should there really be panic with those two teams?
Well, look, here's the deal, and we talked about this before. If you give $30 million to your quarterback, and he's earned every penny in Drew Brees, you're not going to have enough left over.
So let me ask you this.
Around him.
Field Yates was saying.
Yield fates.
Here, and I don't know if he said it on NFL Live as well.
Yes.
The talk of, after this year, the possibility of letting Drew Brees walk.
I think it's something they have to consider. I mean, look, Drew Brees is still playing at a very high level.
Yes, he is.
We'll see how he goes throughout the season. But you look, we talked about with the Ravens, all these teams that load up to pay their quarterback. You can't miss. You can't miss on a draft pick. You can't miss on a free agent. You can't miss with a bunch of injuries. Everything, your margin for error becomes so much thinner if you pay the quarterback.
Are there
kind of
other
money.
Teams that are paying their quarterback yet still have really good teams?
Well, the Patriots.
Okay, I mean,
but Tom Brady's never been a $30 million a year guy.
There are some out there, I mean, that are paying their guys. So I don't always look at let's let Breeze go for it. Maybe management do better.
Again,
right?
That's part of it, but your margin for error is so
Yes, it is.
slim.
I agree with that.
Since I use the Ravens as an example, since they paid Joe Flacco after that amazing run in 2012, they've missed the playoffs 3 out of the next 4 years.
Right.
Now, they're 2-0 this year to start the season, so things look good, but they had never missed the playoffs before they paid Joe Flacco.
I agree.
Same with Seattle. Seattle is seeing the same thing from paying Russell Wilson. They have no money on that offensive line.
Yeah, but they were able to pay someone to keep that defense together pretty well.
Absolutely.
I think Snyder's done a nice job of that. I'm just not a fan of giving up on a guy when he could still be very productive for you and not make some better decisions and not be 2 years in a row have the most dead money in the league.
Absolutely. They right now they have the 5th most going into this year. But the same thing is with the Colts. You know, they had a chance to build a really good team around Andrew Luck when they didn't have to pay him.
And they failed
miserably, and they're paying the price for it right now.
All right, let's get on with 5-point stance, would you?
Can't win with this guy today.
What are you doing?
Can't win. All right, since the NFL went to 12 playoff teams in 1990, there have been 3 teams who have started 0-3 and made the playoffs. 98 Bills, 95 Lions, and the 92 Chargers, who actually started 0-4. Conversely, 73.5% of the teams who start 3-0 went on to make the playoffs since 1990. But last year, 4 teams started 3-0 and missed the playoffs. The Vikings, who started 5-0, by the way. The Ravens, who we just talked about. Denver started 4-0. And the Eagles, the second most such teams in the Super Bowl era. In 2002, there were 6.
That is interesting. Now, listen.
What is that word you were going for?
Interesting. Okay. There's only a couple of, only a couple of games in as far as undefeated teams are concerned. So I think it's tough to ask the question which undefeated team may still not make the playoffs. I think obviously you can have plenty of those, but is there a shakier one to you that is undefeated? We talked about Carolina,
Detroit,
possibly.
Maybe?
Is it
that division's tough?
Detroit. Yeah. If Green Bay heals up, I think Green Bay is the best team.
Agreed. And then what are we going to do with Minnesota? Because Sam Bradford, we don't know what the situation is.
Non-contact reason he's out. I mean, that's
twice ACL torn that, and they're a completely different team when he's
that to me is.
You all right?
Oh, it got me because of that division.
And the interesting
is one of the more intriguing divisions just for those reasons. Where a division like the AFC West, I'm like 3 teams are in.
Absolutely,
I think 3
they
teams
did that
in
2013. They had 3 teams in the AFC West, and that's what makes because the Chargers could easily be 2-0. But the problem is now they're 0-2, and everyone else in that division is 2-0.
Right.
And that's what makes it more difficult for them. Plus, the Chargers, this is a continuing theme for them. Their special teams continue to just kill them.
Yeah.
There was one year, I think it was 2008, the Chargers were number 1 in total offense, number 1 in total defense, and missed the playoffs.
Yeah.
Because they were 33 out of 32 teams on special
teams. That's not good.
It's not what you're looking for.
Numbers don't add up.
We continue our 5-point stance. Wow. The Falcons and Lions end of the week as 2 of the 3 2-0 teams in the NFC, the Panthers being the other, and they play each other, Falcons and Lions. While the NFL Football Power Index has the Falcons as the top-ranked team in the NFC, it's not as high on the Lions, who are ranked 8th in the NFC. According to the Westgate Las Vegas Sportsbook, Detroit is currently listed as a 3-point underdog at home despite starting 2-0. This is the 3rd time Detroit is a home underdog when entering with a winning record under Matthew Stafford. Detroit lost both games to Green Bay and failed to cover each time.
You buy into Detroit?
I am if they can run the ball. And they were able to run the ball Monday night against a pretty good Giants defense.
That's what I thought as well. We can say what you want about the Giants offense, but the defense is a good defense. And if they can run the ball like that, and because we know they love to pass it, and how much that would help that passing game, I think the defense is coming along there. That's a team to watch for. I think that could be, I know they made the playoffs, so to sit there and say a surprise team, but we always think Green Bay because of Aaron Rodgers.
Well, they haven't won a playoff game,
right.
I think, since the early 90s, if I'm not mistaken. I think they beat your Eagles, wasn't it?
And they haven't had
no, you pounded the Lions that one year, right? That's what it was.
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
You're asking me to remember that?
Yeah.
What year?
It was like 90 or 91.
No.
I think we beat them like 40
in the playoffs?
In the playoffs.
We didn't play Detroit in the playoffs in 90 or 91.
Check that.
God,
I'm pretty sure.
I really hope we did. No, we did not.
I'm pretty sure
90 or 91. Hembo, check that.
Early 90s.
Man, if we did.
Yeah.
If I'm wrong about this, the show will be called Wingo and Golic.
Well, that's not happening anyway. We already printed the T-shirts.
Good point.
But no,
90 or
95. You were gone. 95.
I was gone.
95. It was 95.
So Golic and Wingo.
Yes, that close. Dang it!
That's how sure I was.
We continue.
You have another one?
Yeah, there's 5 of them. Just so you know, it's called a 5-point stance.
Okay.
So you take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Does this feel painful yet?
The whole 3+ hours have felt painful today, my friend. Okay, the Chiefs are the only team in the NFL with both offensive and defenses ranked in the top 10 according to the FPI. They also have the top-rated special teams unit in the league. They take on the Chargers and Phillip Rivers, who entered the week ranked 8th in the NFL in total QBR. They 7 QBs ahead of Phillip Rivers are combined 13-0 this season. Similarly, he's the 4th quarterback in the NFL in completion percentage. The 3 QBs ahead of him are a combined 5-0. That is so much information.
A lot of information. I would just
Hembo, what is this? What did you just do here?
I would stop with all that.
I think there's a Pythagorean theorem in here
and
somewhere.
Do we
right?
think
we have a hypotenuse in here?
I know
is
this.
That possible?
I know this is all about.
Did you factor out pi to 27 digits?
B squared.
C squared.
Correct.
There you go.
There you go.
There was a lot in there.
There was a lot about Phillip Rivers, and I'm going to push that aside for a bit and talk
Shove the Rivers information to the side.
Talk about Kansas City.
Yeah.
And another one.
That maybe was the smartest thing you've done in this entire segment.
Between he and throwing the ball down the field, we talked about Bradford early in that first, in their first games when they're throwing the ball on the field. Will Alex Smith continue to do that? Will he revert back to the game manager? That's like a swear word in the NFL. But I think when you get a surprise like Kareem Hunt doing what he's doing and saying, okay, this has given us an added dimension.
5 scrimmage touchdowns.
You have the best tight end, right? Gronk. We can call him when he's healthy, but we're still never sure.
Kelsey is right now, yes.
He's good for a touchdown and a unsportsmanlike conduct every game.
And a dance.
And a dance.
Which might be the unsportsmanlike conduct.
And the defense, losing Eric Berry certainly hurts you when you can man up on that tight end like he did against Gronk. But, boy, I love that team.
Well, what I love about Kansas City is they won 2 games 2 different ways.
Yeah.
I mean, they won in a shootout in New England on the road. And then they had it was 24-21, I think was the score. It was a slugfest. That game was a big boy, bring your lunch bucket game.
Right.
And they were able to win that too. And they'll get after people on the defensive side of the ball. So that, thankfully, is the end to the 5-point.
You can just hit the button.
Right now on Mike and Mike. It's time for the 5.
That was the 5-point
fault.
that was on you. Listen, this entire segment was your fault. Let's be clear about
my
that.
fault.
Except for the Hembo stats, they were terrible.
See
Hembo, we love you. Old Ross Hadburn.
See what you can look forward to?
November 27th.
Wow.
Hey, you know what you can look forward to tonight?
Yeah.
That was very good, wherever that came from.
That was.
I was very impressed. Mm-hmm. Our next top-ranked boxing title fight is tonight. Oscar Valdez puts his WBO featherweight title on the line against Genesis Cervania. The undercard starts at 7:30 with the main event at 10:30, live on ESPN, ESPN Deportes, and, of course, the ESPN app. All right, we talked about this earlier today. We're going to have the first, I think there are 3 London games this year, 3 or 4. More than 2, that much I know.
Okay.
And it's going to be the Ravens hosting the Jaguars, who at some point, let's just move them there.
Well, I mean,
they're there all the time.
Obviously, the deal that they went into and signed, they want. Shad Khan wants to be there.
Jaguars are the home team in the Shock
exactly
right.
right.
events. We're not taking anything away from Jacksonville.
No,
We're just saying you can read the writing here is what may be a possibility. The NFL has now said that they want a team in London by 2022. When you hear that as a former player, the idea that one team will be on a different continent, what goes through your mind?
I mean, I get the globalization. I wanted to also read that they don't think they're going to try and play a game in China. They don't think that's going to be able to happen. We've seen the globalization, obviously, of other sports. Others had already been that way, but basketball really came along ever since
But they don't have a team in China
in '92. I'm not a fan of it personally. I know from the East Coast to London, it's kind of just like a flight. Is it? From the East Coast to West Coast, right?
Well,
by 6 hours.
The saying is that the selling point for the NFL is, hey, it's almost the same as flying to Seattle.
Right.
Because they use Seattle because Seattle is way –
right.
I mean, people forget how far northwest Seattle is. San Francisco is 800 miles south of Seattle. That's how far away in the northwest corner Seattle is. So they'll say, well, you have to fly to Seattle. But every time we have Seattle come east, what do we talk about? Well, it's a West Coast team coming east, playing the 1 o'clock time zone.
The only team that's been successful at that as of late has been the Raiders.
Exactly right. So we talk about that as a problem for the team going west to east. But the biggest difference is not the time of travel, but from a competitive standpoint, the time zone difference.
Change, right.
Okay? It's 3 hours from here to Seattle or here to the West Coast. It is 5 hours. Going forward. And you've played in exhibition games or preseason games.
I played twice over in London.
Yeah, and it's an adjustment, right?
Well, the times we played, now this was before they had regular games over there.
Yes, these were all
So what
games.
we would do is we would be there the whole week. Yeah. And we would practice there all week and then play the game, so you had a chance to get, accustomed to that time chase. You're not going to be able to do that here. I don't imagine it's going to be coming off of a bye week, or you're leaving your game and flying right to London, and you're not going to do that. It's just not going to happen. So the acclimation process, I do think, could be tough.
And then here's the other part. You're talking about one team going there one time.
Yeah.
Okay, now you're going to have a team in London that's doing that eight times? 8 times.
Right.
I don't see how that's not a competitive imbalance in a massive way.
Yeah.
We understand the business part of it. We get it. We understand, they can make money in London with a team. I think that's been proven because we still keep sending them two teams never had a winning record, and they still show up.
They do.
And
right.
they still show up. So we're really abusing this special relationship we have with the UK by keep sending them games where there's not 2 teams with a winning record, and this is the 18th time. But you're talking about how much it takes for one team to come from the East Coast when Philadelphia, when you were there,
right.
let alone the Midwest or the Western
Coast,
time zone. And now we're talking about one team that's going to have to make that journey 8 times. That is such a competitive disadvantage. I don't see how anybody can't see that as plain as day.
Mark Waller, NFL Executive VP of International, this on the London situation. We've proven clearly that the level of support is here from a fan perspective, a stadium and stadium ownership perspective, and from a city and government perspective. We'll get a lot of support if and when we need it.
So all that's true.
Yeah.
But that's not what we're talking about.
No,
that's not the issue.
It's not.
That is not the issue. We all agree they will have support. We could send 10 games over there, and hopefully one of them will have 2 teams with a winning record.
Right.
And that will work. What we're talking about is how it affects a team's chance to be competitive.
Yeah, I agree.
A completely different perspective.
I agree. I don't think – I've said all along I don't think I would like something like this from a player standpoint. Now, listen, if they move and you go, it's not like you can say, I'm not going. You can go ahead and do it all you want and not play.
Right.
So you'd have to go. You'd have to, get accustomed to life over there if you have a family and that whole deal, which I'm sure you could do, but – I would not be a fan of this. I just don't think the NFL can globalize like the other sports has. You can go play like there's 4 in London, 1 in Mexico City, I believe, this year as well. Yes. So,
we had a Monday night game there last year between the Texans and the Raiders, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was great.
It was, but I don't think expansion out there, putting teams out in a place like London, to me, I'm just not for it. Maybe I'm too close-minded about it.
Well, get me around the point we're talking about here.
All the things I just read are great from a business standpoint.
Yes.
But now you have to look at it again from the player standpoint, and that's a lot of what the battles going back and forth between the NFL and the union are right now. Is it's a business. You say it's a business, I say it's a game. You say it's a game, I say it's a business.
Yeah.
So where are the players in all this traveling 8 times doing that? If it's Jacksonville, where do they go for? Obviously, we know what their division games are, and then what is the schedule that particular year?
And what if Jacksonville is doing really well all of a sudden, and they begin to sell out and they start winning, and then you're just going to pull them out and move them there. I mean, we're not saying
like Oakland to Vegas?
Exactly. Well, that was a stadium deal. That was a little different. I get it. Yeah. I'm not saying Oakland didn't deserve to keep the team, but there was a much better stadium deal for the Raiders in Las Vegas. There's no question about that. But the idea of one team being this singular entity in a different continent. I mean, you want to put a division over there? Okay. Then a lot of the interdivision games, that might cut it down, or have a whole international division if you want to do that. I wouldn't be opposed to that. But when you have one team out there on an island by literally on an island, because Great Britain is an island, by itself, how you cannot see how much of a competitive disadvantage that is. If you don't see it and you don't recognize it and don't think it's a problem, you're kidding yourself. You really are.
I agree. And again, we see it all from the business side of what you can expect from that side of it, how it can be successful. But from my player side, and that's how I look at a lot of things, I would not like it.
As a fan, you have to understand that. So that's something we'll get into. We'll also talk more about Charles Barkley coming up a little bit. Mm-hmm. Old Chuck's grumpy. There's nothing better than Grumpy Chuck. We roll on. Mike and Trey here today on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance, and all guests appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, including our next guest, former Super Bowl winning coach for the Baltimore Ravens, now works for the NFL Network. Brian Billick joins us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Get instant gold status at Shell. Join the Fuel Rewards program now at fuelrewards.com/gold. Brian, great to have you on the show. Great to talk to you. We've been having a couple of topics that have taken a lot of our attention today, and let's jump into this first one that we were just talking about with Mike, the idea that the NFL wants a team in London by 2022, and we're sort of the opinion that would be a huge competitive disadvantage for the players because of the time zone difference. What's your take on that?
Yeah, no question. I mean, I've rummaged this around a bit with a number of different people about. I'll take it on strictly from the head coaching perspective and the personnel side. That yes, you can do that, and I can give you schedules and formats, and yes, the question becomes really how competitive can you be when whatever the schedule is, whether you make a 3 or 4 game, states run and the back and forth, and then can you get players in the form of free agency because of the difference in terms of where they're going to be and their families, and just wrapping my head around that, the question becomes, because we've learned this lesson in L.A., have we not? Yeah, the fans will be phenomenal to a point. And in a country where I'm not sure where you rank behind soccer and what even cricket, are you the third most favorite sport in the UK? And if you're not competitive, if you truly can't be that Super Bowl bound team, how long can you hold that interest? So there's a lot of levels to this beyond just the mechanics of, yeah, I can put the schedules together, but I just don't know how you can stay competitive.
Well, Brian, that's the point that we're dealing with. Obviously, as a fan, I want to see the team be competitive, and Mike alluding to that as a player. Now, Peter King has texted in and said, look, they may make 3 trips to the U.S., as you were alluding to, 2 to 3 game trips, 1 to 2 game trips, and they'd have a base of operation here in the States. But still, that even if you do it that way, as a coach, you would see that as a competitive disadvantage, wouldn't you?
Well, look at the experience in L.A. when we're talking about the Chargers, and I saw a number the other day that I'll throw out here, that no team that has moved, for the obvious reasons, you're disrupting the organization, everybody within the organization, the players are unsettled, am I here or are there, has ever been above 500. Well, this is the ultimate move, and it stays that way. All the disruption of the things. I mean, at the end of the day, as we say, it's a long, long season. And as a coach, you try to create normalcy as best you can in the lives of a pro athlete that is very physically demanding. But what is the cumulative effect of that? Yeah, like I said, you can orchestrate a 2-3 game run here and then come back and forth, but it has to do with off season. I mean, there's just a lot of moving parts here that I get the business side of it, but even from the business side, how long can you sustain that if the team truly can't be competitive? Do you give them like an expansion team? How long do you give them extra dispensation? Do you give them an extra pick per round in the draft? I mean, what do you do to compensate for the fact that they clearly, from a competitive standpoint, are at a disadvantage?
Yeah, I listen. I understand Peter's point that it's not 8 trips. But to that respect, 1 to 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks stateside, I mean, we've all done that when we've had the trips where we go out in West for a couple of games where you stay there for a week. It's just disruptive. And then you do it for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. You're away from your family. You're not sleeping in your own bed. You're not around your own, the way you do things through your normal schedule.
Right.
I don't like that at all. I still think you're at a competitive disadvantage because only one team is being asked to do this, not the other. So I just don't see it. From a business side, I see what they're talking about.
Sure.
From a competitive advantage side, man, then are they going to have to overpay to get free agents to come there? Because, it's not like the NBA where it's a max deal, you choose where you go.
Well, that's the interesting part here, Brian, because then we talk about sometimes with states that have no state tax and states that do have tax, and that factors into free agency. Is the exchange rate going to be something that you try and do, Brian, to lure players to come to play in London?
Yeah, and what's the tax situation where you have to? You're right. I mean, do you give them a bigger roster? Do you let them have, say, 60-man roster with a developmental squad? Like I said, you give them the extra. And that I get that. I mean, and Peter King, God bless Peter. He'd love to go to London 2-3 times a year. I want him to travel with the team for the entire year and tell me, this is manageable. But what happens when you already talked about it? Seattle has to play whomever in London. When do you leave? On Monday and stay through? Do you get to play? And I'm sure that, Seattle will play in UK, and then they'll play an East Coast game, and they'll make that all work on paper. I want whoever does that in the league office to travel with that team year-round and see how that feels.
Completely agree. All right, let's move on to the field. You mentioned L.A. and the moving. Let's go to L.A., or it was San Fran last night as the Rams and the 49ers. They put on an offensive display, 41-39 win by the Rams. And a lot of talk of Jared Goff from last year. Oh, my God, he's inactive in Game 1. Holy smokes, is this guy a bust at the number 1 pick? To where we are now, what's the biggest improvement you have seen in his game?
Well, he's beginning. I did this for our playbook show at the NFL Network the other day. You're seeing a progression. I went through all the film, both last year and this year, including preseason, and I couldn't find a true drop-back NFL-style throw. Everything was boots and waggles and play actions, even in the first couple games, to where it was always some kind of, Sean McVay's doing a nice job of, I'm going to do a double, the jet sweep fake and whatever, and get some guys open, because young quarterbacks can really only throw what they see, and Jared Goff can do that. What we're beginning to see, and saw a little bit last week and much more of it last night, more than I found in the entire season leading up to it, was legitimate 5-step, shuffle up, and throw. And making the reads and throws that an NFL quarterback has to make, and we're beginning to see that in Jared Goff. And that's not Jared's fault. Obviously, they wanted to protect him, but clearly Sean McVay is more and more comfortable with putting him in those situations to make those kind of throws he's going to have to consistently make as an NFL quarterback, and we're beginning to see that growth.
Speaking of growth in the quarterback, a lot of people are talking a lot about Trevor Siemian, the Broncos quarterback, Brian. And, he had 4 touchdown passes against the Dallas Cowboys, looked very good until they started turning the ball over in the Monday night game against San Diego. They have shored up their run defense, which was a problem last year for Denver. If Trevor can play as well as he's played the first 2 games, and the defense may be back to close to what it was in 2015, how good can this Denver Broncos team be?
Well, taking nothing away from Trevor Siemian, because he has definitely shown a progression. But you give me that Denver defense approaching where it did a couple of years ago, and the number 1 rushing attack in the NFL, and I don't know if they can sustain that, but that's where they are right now. I think I could play quarterback for the Denver Broncos and be passable. And I don't mean to be flip about it, because Trevor Siemian, that you talk about the perfect scenario, and the numbers are there. If you keep him to that 25-30 pitch count, and you can run the ball and play great defense, this is a team that can truly think of itself as a Super Bowl caliber team. Now, the challenge for Trevor Siemian, and I don't know that he can't do it, when you've got to be that 35-40 pitch guy, particularly on a consistent basis, even though you've got weapons, on the outside like Manuel and Sanders and Thomas. Can you do that on a consistent basis? That would be the next challenge. But with that defense and running game, they can keep that up. He's not going to have to worry about it.
As far as winless teams, some we expected to be winless. Others we expected them to do more. And while it's early in the season, are you panicking, or should fans be panicking a bit in Cincinnati or for the Giants?
Well, you're not panicking, but boy, life ain't fun. And you talk about we're going into week 3. I can't remember more of a must-win game in week 3 in the NFL than what the New York Giants are facing. For no other reason than it's just in New York. If they and you've already started the familiar. Every coach at some point has to throw himself under the bus. Hey, it's my bad. I should have. And McAdoo did that. It's almost routine now. But now when you open the specter, whether he wants to truly think about it or not, about, well, I may relinquish the play calling. If they lose to Philadelphia, now I've got to remember, we're talking about in New York now, this thing is going to become apocalyptic. And I've been down that road, done that. And what he is going to have to face. So how bad are the Giants? Again, well, tell me who you've played. It's a little early to be throwing stats and records because who teams have had to play. Baltimore's a perfect example. We're going to find out about Baltimore next week against Pittsburgh, and then when they have to go on the road to Oakland. And you could take each of these really good teams. Again, we're going to find about Detroit this weekend. But with regards to the winless teams, again, where you look at the schedule, where are they going to get a win? And if they can't beat Philadelphia this week, the emotional toll that's going to take on New York, this could get really ugly.
Yep. It certainly could. Look, it's been 20 years since we've had a team start 0-3 and make the postseason. That was in 1998. It's only happened 3 times under the current playoff format. The Chargers in 92 started 0-4 and actually made the playoffs, but that is so far the outlier, so it is critical for all those winless teams week 3. Brian, we appreciate you being with us this morning. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
That's good, guys.
All right.
I have to pick against the Geeks coming up. But before that, we're going to give away another bobblehead. And we're looking for different ways to do it. This one may be more geared toward the TV because it's going to be a site thing. Come on up, Jeff. Jeff Cohen is coming up here. He's been with the show about 2 years. It's his last day with Mike and Mike before he moves on to bigger and better things like most people do when they leave this show. So we got a little cake for him. But here's the thing. Jeff doesn't ever go by Jeff. Jeff has been on air and on camera many times over the last 2 years.
He's a familiar face, is what we're saying.
The first person that tweets in at Mike and Mike what Jeff's nickname is going to win a bobblehead.
All right.
So this is Jeff, but we never call him Jeff. It's always his nickname. Last day on the show, tweet in at Mike and Mike, what's his nickname, and you win a bobblehead.
So we got that coming up. Plus, you got
well done.
Getting beaked by the Geeks so far this season. And we're going to figure out if you can get Jeff's nickname. And you're going to plot your revenge.
Yes,
on
I
the
am.
Geeks
I have
and
a
give
pick
away a
against the Geeks
bobblehead.
that I'll get a win.
All right, Forward Thinking brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit us at geico.com or call 1-800-947-AUTO. That's AUTO.
All right, let's give away a bobblehead. We brought up Jeff Cohen on the set.
Hefe.
He's been on the show for a couple of years. It's his last day on Mike and Mike as he moves on to bigger and better things. So we brought him up here, and we asked for the first person to tweet in. His name is Jeff, but that's not what he goes by. He has a nickname for this show.
By the way, we had some great incorrect nicknames.
We sure did. People were saying Bubba and Hembo, which are 2 other people
Stats
on this show.
Wayne Stanzik, which actually isn't a nickname. It's his last name.
Booger.
Really? Booger.
They gave everybody.
If you watch Thursday Night College Football,
seriously,
it was right there.
Someone
Booger.
did say Goose.
Brooksy. No one said Maverick, by the way, which I was surprised at.
Move over into the light a little bit.
Come to the light.
Walk to the light. His nickname, and Scott Summers got a lot of people did. Scott was first. Is Juice. Juice is his nickname. The last day here. We got a winner, so Juice, go pick a bobblehead. Go pick a bobblehead for Scott, who was a winner. We thank everybody for tweeting. And again, we're going to give out bobbleheads in many different ways. We just decided. Now, Juice,
I'm leaning back.
For those listening on radio, Juice is about 2.5 feet tall, so he can only go to the third shelf.
And which one did he
that
pick?
is behind us.
Noah Syndergaard?
Which one did you pick?
Noah Syndergaard, right?
Noah Syndergaard. He did. Oh,
Thunder.
Thor.
Very
nice.
Very nice.
Nicely done.
Well
this
done.
will go to Scott, who was the first to tweet in that Jeff Cohen's nickname was Juice. All right, Juice, beat it. See you. Thanks.
And so much for us being nice to
And there you go. We're
employee.
done being nice. There you go.
Okay, we were talking about forward thinking. Here's what's coming up on ESPN Radio this week, and it's a doubleheader on Sunday in the NFL. First, it's the Dolphins traveling to take on the Jets, followed by Seattle at Tennessee. That's going to be a tough game.
Yes, it is.
Coverage begins at 12 p.m. Eastern. Okay, Golic, pick a game against the Geeks.
So every week the Football Power Index here, and I call it the NPI, the Nerd Power Index, because it's a bunch of geeks with their algorithms. Nerd alert! Right, with their
Pythagorean theorems,
pocket protectors, and their all that stuff. Picking games and such and giving their percentages and things like that. And I mock them. Yet we are in the third game, and I'm 0-2.
So they're mocking you.
So they're mocking me.
Actually, they're not mocking you. Their stats are mocking you.
Their stats are mocking me.
Their numbers are screaming off their pie charts.
They're mocking me, from a distance.
Yeah.
So I have this big sheet in front of me, and the sheet I have starts with the biggest discrepancy. Like this week, the biggest point spread is the Houston Texans at New England. They give New England an 86.6% chance of winning, which equates to 15.5-point favorite.
Yes.
Okay, that's what our nerds select. I need a win, okay? So it goes all the way down to the one that's the closest. Get this.
Yeah.
The Cowboys are going to play
the Cardinals on Monday night.
Cardinals on the Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
The nerds have made the Cardinals a 0.1 point favorite.
So 1/10 of 1 point favorite.
1/10 of 1 point. It's 50-50.
So really not a favorite at all.
No, it's a favorite.
Okay.
Because they have their Cardinal head right there as the favorite.
Is the VIG counted in that? I'm
and
just
it's
checking.
And it's 0.1 favored. I'm taking the Cowboys.
Well, that's a real stretch for you.
Well, I need to get on the board, man.
Way to go out on that limb.
I need to get on the board.
Oh, Hembo, in like the minute we have left, Bill Belichick is 8-0 against rookie quarterbacks at home. Calculate what the winning percentage was, the average.
It's 100%.
No, average margin of victory of those 8 teams. Yeah, do that in like 37 seconds.
You got 37
So
seconds.
you're going with the Cowboys.
Do you have an upset this week?
It is not the Texans to knock off the Patriots.
No.
Let me see the list.
Yeah.
Give me the list. Oh, you know what? No, I'm taking a favorite, though, because this is the first time they've been favorited since 2014. Cleveland.
The Browns.
Cleveland is going to do it. They're taking on the Colts because Andrew Luck's already been ruled out of that game. Look, they got the positive mojo from Joe Thomas's 10,000 and now 62 consecutive snaps. We had him on the show on Tuesday. So I think the Browns are going to build off Joe Thomas's incredible streak, and they're going to go in there and win in Indianapolis as a favorite.
Okay, I like that. And it still seems adamant that you're picking a favorite because it's a Cleveland Browns.
Right. It's like when you said the Rams were a road dog when technically they were the favorite.
Yeah.
That
was a bad job.
That's all right.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
So this show starts November 22nd, 27th.
This show, yes.
Yeah. Of Golic
What
and Wingo.
did you just say?
It's the 22nd.
Let's say whatever in like 20 seconds.
27th.
Yeah.
Any shot that has any legs.
Oh, yeah. I like our chances.
You think so?
No, I don't.
Okay.
It's a crash and burn. Say, come for the sports, stay for the dumpster fire.
There you go.
That's basically
Be one every
That's
day.
on the T-shirt. Golic and Wingo, big burning bin of trash. Thanks for watching.
Good weekend.
First time skydiving? Sure is. Okay, you just open the door like this and you jump. Wait. Should we be like in tandem? Tandem? That's a great idea. Are you a certified instructor? No, but I love parachutes and I love people. Here we go.
You wouldn't take chances with an uncertified skydiving instructor. Don't do it with your finances. Find a certified financial planner professional today at letsmakeaplan.org. CFP. Work with the highest standard.